Good evening, barflies and lounge lizards, and welcome to Midnite Martinis, the show where I take a look at something from my personal collection. And tonight we'll be taking a look at my Creature from the Black Lagoon collection. Whereas it's not a huge collection, I have some pretty neato fantastic pieces I'd like to show off. And just a warning, this is going to be a mostly static video, because I don't want to take all this stuff out of the case. So that translates into boring. So I should probably just call this one right now. So I figure I'll start with this guy right here. Now I remember when this one came out, and I forget the company, it had been a little while since we'd had a new Creature from the Black Lagoon figure, and I remember being really excited about this one, and the prototype photos looked great. But then when the actual figure came out, I mean, it's still a really cool figure, but he's a bit more stylized than the pictures led it to believe, and kind of a, probably can't tell here, but kind of a strange shade of green. Still a neat figure though, but what made this figure really cool and made him really stand out was the Julie figure he came with, which is extremely cool and a very nice likeness. Way nicer than the Creature figure himself, even though, again, I don't mean to sound like I'm ragging on the figure, because, I mean, it's still a cool figure, but when compared to the Julie, not quite as spectacular, only kind of spectacular. And neat thing about them too is they weren't really attached to the base. So what I did was I just took Julie here and I simply just put another creature in its place, one that I liked a bit better. Now this guy here, I don't remember exactly which one is which, but I want to say this was from that late 90s, early 2000s Universal line that came out. And those were really great because at that point it had really been a long time since we'd had any real nice Creature from the Black Lagoon figures. And at this point, this was probably the nicest figure that had ever come out. So I remember just being very excited about this guy. And I left him in the package for a long time. But then finally when I got my shelves, I opened him up and he is there hanging out behind Miss Adams. Now, when I was a kid, I want to say my very first Creature toy ever was actually the old aquarium toy that you could find that meant to go in aquariums. Fragile little thing, and I remember it broke very quickly, but at first that was the only Creature I had until I got the Remco Mini Monsters version, or it could be vice versa, I forget, but they actually both fell apart, weirdly. The Remco one, I didn't break it, he just literally just fell apart. But something I had always wanted was a Creature from the Black Lagoon model kit. But I cannot put together model kits, I can't paint, can't do any of those things. But yeah, that was always just kind of one of my wish list toy items. But then several years back, good old Al from Kaiju Shorts and Them's Fighting Words got this guy for me, put him together, and beautifully painted him. Yeah, one of the nicest surprises I think I've ever gotten in the mail. And moving along to one you can barely see, but we got his face there, and that is one of the first of the Mego style creatures that started coming out in the 2010s. I don't know if this is an actual Mego figure, I can't see from the packaging here, but it sure looks like that. And I remember being really excited to get this guy as well. And speaking of Mego style, now we have the actual Mego Creature from the Black Lagoon 12-inch figure. Now I've already reviewed this guy on the channel and gushed over how much I love this one, but I'm going to do it again. And I have to say, this is probably my favorite Creature from the Black Lagoon piece. I mean, just everything about it, the sculpt, the look. I mean, look at that head sculpt. And it's kind of one of those things that a retro style figure like this just lends itself so well to these classic monsters, and I kind of feel like the really screen accurate ones are, I mean, they're very cool, but just something about this makes me think of something I would have had as a kid, and so I think that just particularly makes him enjoyable. And then next on our larger scale of figures is this guy here. I don't know if he's a full 12 inches, but he's close. This is another from those late 90s, early 2000s, I forget which, Universal line of monster figures. And this one actually came from a Target. And funnily enough, it was a Christmas present from me mom. But she forgot about it. And the place where she had it hidden, it just sat there for months, collecting dust until remembered that he was out there, brought him in. And this is one of those ones, as you can see, I generally open most of my nice figures like this because the whole keeping it in package thing, that's not for me unless it's just really cool packaging, because I believe you should enjoy your toys. But this packaging is just so unique, just looks like some kind of strange suspension tube or something. And I just thought it looked really neat and went with the figure well and just perfectly shows him off. And now we have this guy here, which I'm pretty sure was a Diamond Select figure. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. But this is actually probably my favorite actual action figure type of the creature. It is a great sculpt, a great likeness. He stands well, and he comes with a cool base as well. Yeah, just really an excellent figure. I'm quite glad I got that one. And I really like the eyes too. They really pop. The Universal one, as I showed before, was very cool too, but his eyes just don't quite pop as much as this one's do. Now we're going to start getting into some of the more obscure and kind of oddball type figures in the collection, or things in the collection. And this guy here is a Creature from the Black Lagoon candle. And I cannot for the life of me remember where I got it from, how long I've had it, nothing. He was just kind of there one day. And beside the candle is my Mini-Mates. Whereas I'm not a Mini-Mates collector, of course I had to get the Creature from the Black Lagoon. And not only that, there was a glow-in-the-dark one, and I am a sucker for anything glow-in-the-dark. So pretty neat. And now this here is probably the most obscure thing in my collection, and that is a box of Creature from the Black Lagoon candy from the 90s. And this is a really interesting case because these were actually a re-release from a much earlier candy, I want to say from the 60s, and they were actually Universal Monster candy cigarettes. And you open it up and they still look like candy cigarettes, they have that candy cigarette taste, but they just took the word cigarette off and just put candy there and re-released them in the 90s. And this is my original one I got, I want to say, on a Halloween in a trick-or-treat bag. And I've just held on to it ever since. And behind the candy cigarettes is an original 1963 Marx Creature from the Black Lagoon. Whereas the candy cigarettes may be the most obscure thing in the collection, this is easily the oldest I have. And very cool. And I really seem to recall that I had a glow-in-the-dark version one as well as a kid, but I cannot for the life of me find it. I found the Wolfman, but I cannot locate that creature, but I really hope I didn't just dream that, because glow-in-the-dark version of the Marx creature, very awesome. Okay, now we're moving down to the second shelf of creature stuff, and this one is just jam-packed with kind of more the oddball stuff that I just wanted to squeeze in together. And this is Lagoon from the Monster High fashion doll line from several years back. And Monster High was basically a girls' fashion doll line with monster themes. And basically all the girls were supposed to be the daughters of famous movie monsters. And she was essentially the daughter of the Creature from the Black Lagoon. And I just thought that was really neat and thought this was a cute doll and just wanted just one good one for the collection, just to kind of go in there. So that's the story with her. Because a lot of times when people see the background, like, who's that? What's that in there? And of course here we have the Forum Novelties Creature from the Black Lagoon mask. The one that didn't look anything like the photos online and has the wonky eye. But I still like this mask. I probably should upgrade to the, the Trick or Treat Studios one? The nicer one that's available now for not terribly much. But I'm always hesitant to buy latex stuff because you just don't know what the shelf life on that's going to be. So for now, the Forum Novelties guys are just going to hang out there in the back. And beside the mask is another one of my favorites, and I want to say it's another Diamond Select, but I could be wrong on that one, Creature from the Black Lagoon Coin Bank. And that one's it's one of my favorites because it's a great likeness, a great sculpt, it's a good size, and it was a good price. Yeah, really a cool one. They did a black and white one as well. I always meant to pick up and just never got around to. And space is becoming an issue with these guys, so I kind of made myself curb on the whole creature collecting for now. But maybe one day. And in the very back here, we have another guy that I don't recall anything about. I just know I got him, I want to say off Amazon, and thought it was kind of a cool design. I would guess it was something kind of following in the wake of the Pop explosion. After Pops kind of blew up, there's a whole lot of things kind of trying to do similar kind of vibes as Pops did, but either way, I thought he was really cool. And behind him is the reaction creature figure, which I actually have that one actually attached to the back of the case. And let me tell you with that one, I like that one and I like its packaging. Can't really make him out though, can you? But I had a devil of a time trying to keep him on the card. I eventually had to super glue the plastic back to the card, and it's held now, but for a long time it would just continuously fall off over and over again. Hopefully I don't have any huge Munsters fans watching it, because this is my Uncle Gil figure, which is very obscured by the creature bang. Kind of hard to make out there, but it's a really neat figure, and if I remember correctly, his little hat even comes off. Now we're getting into more of the depths of the collection. And here, the guy in the middle, in the back there, is the Burger King Creature from the Black Lagoon figure. That's right, if those of you that don't know, Burger King back in the 90s actually did this really cool line of, well, not Happy Meal toys, they came in Kids Club meals, whatever you call those, but of Universal Monsters. And you've got the creature right there. I don't know if he does anything, but creature doesn't have to do anything, darn it. And then beside him is a Creature from the Black Lagoon keychain flashlight I got at a clothing store in Atlanta, of all places. It's officially licensed. I remember it had a Universal tag on it, but I just thought that was the most random thing, and I've never seen one of this guy again since. His arms even move up and down too, so he actually got some articulation, so very cool for a keychain. And beside him is one of my absolute favorites, one that survived all the way from my childhood, and one that was a favorite even in my childhood, and that is a wind-up, walking, spark-shooting creature. Now, he hasn't walked or shot sparks in a long time, but either way, he's just a great-looking guy to have on the shelf. And I remember getting him on vacation in Panama City Beach, Florida. They had a whole little thing. They didn't have packaging. They were just in those little boxes at one of the Alvin's Island stores. And it was a sparking creature, King Kong, or, well, it looked more like a gorilla, and a Godzilla. And I should still have both the others as well, just not totally sure where they are. But the creature, you gotta love him. Absolute favorite of mine. And beside him is just a little bitty kind of generic Creature from Black Lagoon that I got in a package of just little plastic monsters. And next, speaking of Panama City Beach, another thing I got in Panama City Beach, which is not this guy, but they had this line of skateboarding kaiju. There was 2 different Godzillas on skateboards and a King Kong on a skateboard. And I want to say I even showed off those in one of my other videos, the obscure Godzilla toys list. But the reason I mentioned that is because I just really loved those as a kid. I just thought it was so novel seeing these monsters on skateboards. So in, again, that line from the either late 90s or early 2000s, really should have checked. They released little skateboarding monsters. And you can't really see he's on a skateboard there because he's behind this display base that goes to one of the figures up on the top shelf. I just thought it looked neater right here in the front middle of the shelf. But we got a little skating creature. Okay, and the last thing in the collection I'm going to show off today, and this is something that superstar artist Ricky Blaylock has sent armed thugs to try to steal from me many times, and that is this great Creature from the Black Lagoon belt buckle. Yeah, I saw this thing online. I want to say I even got it on Amazon, and I just absolutely had to have it. But you know what I realized very quickly? Unless you wear your shirts tucked in, these big belt buckles are not going to show. Anyone that's seen the channel knows that I'm not really a shirt tucking in kind of fellow, at least not anymore. So he just goes into the display case. And well, that's it. That is my Creature from the Black Lagoon collection for now. Please like, comment, subscribe, and keep it wacky.
Wow.